do, Hemal, is really, really interesting and really, really important, because I think the idea of the law of attraction and manifesting is very appealing to many, many people, myself included. What I think is a missing piece for so many people is how to really make that effective, to go from like an idea or a theory or a concept into something tangible. So I'm really excited to be able to tap into your expertise on this, specifically around the areas of love.
That'd be great, yeah.
Yeah. So our topic today is 7 surefire manifesting strategies to avoid the wrong guy and to have Mr. Right fall in love with you.
Absolutely. So what I've got 7 approaches to, in a sense, readying yourself energetically. So if we're talking about manifesting and law of attraction, so if you're not familiar with it, really, in my view, it's about energy. So everyone says it's about what you think, but really what you think is about energy, and your emotions are about energy. So energy attracts like energy. So really, it's about preparing yourself to have what you want come into your life, essentially. Now, many people watching this maybe have attracted the wrong guy in the past, or maybe they have the right guy, it's not worked out, etc., etc. So hopefully, in what we talk about, we'll give us some approaches which will help clear that up, clean that up, align to having the ideal scenario that they want come into their lives. So number 1, it's first of all yourself, your own self-worth. What do you believe about what you can have for yourself? How do you see yourself in relation to a relationship? So sometimes some people, women, men, will believe that that there are great relationships out there, but they don't think it's for them. So some people will believe there are relationships out there, but they won't believe it's for them. Some people will believe there are relationships out there and they can have it, but they don't feel they deserve it. So it's really about it's really about, how do you feel in relation to having what you want? Self-worth comes into it. Do you believe you can have it? Are you good enough? Does that come up for you? So the thing is, if that comes up for you, why is that there? Really, if you think about things that you have in your life right now, the things that come into your life easily, whether it's buying bread, buying milk, whatever it might be, does good enough come into it? It's a non-issue, okay? So you want what you want, whether it's money, love, or anything else, to be a non-issue. It's normally when we go through some stuff in our lives, whether it's trauma or something else, that something becomes an issue of being good enough or not good enough. So you want to be aligned to what you want, such that there's no thought around it, that you don't have to think about it. It's just instinctive, reactive to having what you want, rather than having to think about it. So if you're having to think a lot about it, it tends not to be from the body, from the heart, from the energy of it. Basically, it tends to be more cerebral, which is not where you manifest from. It's not usually. I find that when you manifest, it's a whole body experience. You're very aligned. You feel very alive. You feel very excited. So that's what you want in relation to manifesting. So number 1 is your own self-worth. How do you feel in relation to having a relationship, and not just a relationship, but a great relationship? So be clear in what you're asking for. So be clear in what you're asking for, like a great relationship, a great partner, a great man. How do you feel about it? If you're always saying to yourself, "I want a relationship," maybe that's what you're getting. You're getting a relationship. So maybe get clear on what you really want and push the boat out. As we'll talk very shortly, it's an abundant universe. If you're being in scarcity mode, thinking like, I can't have what I want, or what I want is not out there, you're now limiting yourself. And so maybe that's why you're attracting what you're attracting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is a really, really powerful concept that you've been talking about here, because I'm sure you've had experience with this in working with some of your clients too, Hemal, is that we are not able to manifest something that we don't feel worthy of. And this lack of feeling worthy of having what we truly want or desire in love or other areas of our lives, in large part, is determined by us and how we feel about ourselves. It's like if I'm applying for a job and I'm out there and I think I'm worth a certain amount of money, let's just, for a nice round figure, say, $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not likely to get a job where I'm paid $100,000, because in my mind I've placed a certain value upon myself, or I think I'm worthy of a certain amount of compensation based on what the skills that I bring to the table. That may or may not be an accurate assessment, but that's where I'm coming in my mind. And I think that happens so often in relationships, where if a woman thinks she's not worthy of really having that amazing, delicious, soul-satisfying relationship,
breathtaking.
settle for, like you said, a relationship.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be that soul-satisfying, toe-curling, deep love.
And that's what we want to emphasize here. It's like, if you're going to manifest it, you want your heart to be alive. You're not just getting by in life, because that's not going to amp up the energy. It's like, if you're just getting by, that's not going to make you excited or passionate about what you want to attract. And of course, remember what we said earlier on energy. So find what excites you. If you're finding that stuff comes up, like, can I have that? Can I not have that? Is it out there? And we're going to talk very shortly about that. But if that stuff's coming up, then that's the stuff you want to address in terms of your beliefs and so on. And we'll talk very shortly about that. Something you just said also about a woman and what she feels worthy of. It reminds me of something I read about a day or two ago. And I don't remember the whole thing at the moment, but it's something along the lines of, they did a bit of a quick survey to test law of attraction, basically, and people's expectations. So I think it was, and I'm just remembering this very loosely, but there were 3 people, they were in jobs. One of them was earning $10,000, another $25,000, and the third $250,000. And I think they all had similar skill sets, but they were all relieved of their duties and were told to go and find another job. And guess what? They all attracted a job equivalent to what they thought they were worth: 10,000, 25,000, 250,000, basically. So the idea being, what we tend to believe in terms of what we deserve, what we can have. This is also what happens sometimes when people go into a relationship, maybe a great relationship. So sometimes someone will go into a great relationship, and sometimes their old patterns will flare up, and they'll start to think, oh, am I worthy of it? Or will this work out? Or is this person going to leave me? So that's the old stuff coming in. That's what you want to clear. So sometimes people might attract a great relationship or a great man, but then the stuff will come up. So again, be vigilant of that. So even if you attract it, start to be conscious of how you're thinking about it when you're in it as well, basically, because that's where self-sabotage and things like that come in. So as you address that, then you more elegantly keep what you want, and it grows and prospers and flourishes. Okay, so number 2, clearing up the past. So when you think of relationships, when you think of men, where do you instinctively go? What do you think, basically? Do you think of a past relationship? Do you evaluate what you can have in the future based on what you've had in the past or the recent past? So you want to let that energy go, okay? Even if it's a relationship that you liked, okay, that you really liked, and for some reason it didn't work out, what I suggest is you want to create a new paradigm for what you want to create. Because whilst you were in a relationship that was great, and for whatever reason it didn't work out, usually what you'll have attached emotions to it of it not working out, maybe some regret or whatever other emotions are around there, and that will form part of your energy as to what you attract. So that's why I suggest having a clean, fresh energy about what you want to create, a clean canvas, basically. It's an abundant universe, so you can create anything that you want out there. So don't limit it based on, because oftentimes people, if they've been in a great relationship, they use the past relationship as a reference point. Now, it's possible to do that, but again, what happens is you start to connect to the energy of other things that weren't so pleasant about it not working out and so on. And of course, if this is what was in the past, this could be possible for you in the future, but you're limiting it to what was in the past, basically, because you'll have expanded and grown from that experience as well. So you might be ready for so much more, and you might be limiting it to paradigms from the past, basically, which you may have outgrown. So look into anything in the past that you need to heal and address. I remember a few years ago I did a radio show, on an online radio show, and this woman called in and she asked a question. She said, Hemal, I've been visualizing for about 6 months now the ideal guy, and for some reason it's just not happening. And I said to her, can you describe to me what you're visualizing? And what she described was very ambiguous, very general, not very specific, kind of almost like tall, dark, and handsome, and a man that cares for me sort of thing. And I said to her, okay, well, let's go into more detail. How does he treat you? How is he with you? Where do you go together? Do you go on holiday? What sort of meals do you have? And I got her to visualize that. And as we were live on radio, she paused and she said, I think I know why I haven't gotten it. I said, why? And so as we got more specific, it brought up what was her block, basically. And she said, well, I went through a divorce, she said, and I've not gotten over it. And so what was happening is, because she had those emotions there, she wasn't allowing herself to get specific and real about it. So she kept herself quite further back from it. So that could be it. So clean up the past, basically, whether it's letting go of physical clutter, emotional clutter, digital clutter. So, if you've had an ex and you're looking to create a new relationship, maybe a marriage, long-term relationship, why are you holding on to your texts and your messages from your ex, basically, if that's the past? Because oftentimes, it's on some level, people have scarcity. They think, well, that was a lovely experience and I won't have something like that ever again, so let me hold on to it. But if you do have what you want, whether it's a husband, a long-term lover, or whatever you want, would you be doing that? You probably wouldn't. You'd be holding the text of your current partner, basically, or the one that you want to have in the future. So look at how you would be in the future, energetically, and step into that, which may mean letting go of the past and things in the present that no longer serve you. So letting go of attachments and moving forward. And remember, everything that you attract is a reflection of what's on the inside. So even if you're attracting the wrong person, as far as the universe is concerned, it's not a wrong person, it's a reflection of wherever you're at. So take that as feedback as to what you may be vibrating energetically that you can help heal and clean up and move on from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think this idea of clearing the past is incredibly powerful, because I think we can project into the present things from the past. And if we're hanging on to attachments or old commitments or promises that are no longer in effect, you know, maybe you promised to love this guy forever who's now no longer in your life,
right,
that can have an impact on, create a block to receiving new love. And I have a client right now who is a feng shui expert, and we've talked about the power of feng shui, which is a little different, modality, but still related in certain ways. And you know, one of the things she and I have talked about is if you're feeling stuck in any area of your life, just start, cleaning out, making space, creating openings. There's something about that in a real physical way, emotional way, spiritual way, that it creates an opening when you clear out the old stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really incredibly powerful.
Also, in what you said there about your client, I think the other, and you said about like someone moving on from promises they've made in the past. So that also reminds me, the key thing is it's about unresolved energy. That's the key thing, basically. So whether it's physical clutter, digital clutter, as I call it, emotional clutter, or past promises they've made, it's all unresolved stuff. It's energy that's stored up, basically, that's not been released. So that's the key thing. Whatever form it is, the key thing is unresolved energy. That's it. And so if you're holding on to stuff, whether it be in thought or deed, action, commitment, promise, clutter, whatever it might be, that's what you're looking to release. So again, because if you're holding on to that energy, that's forming an energetic barrier around you to attract what you do want. I've often found in my own life when I've let go of things have come in, whether it's new clients or new opportunities, summits, whatever it might be. As you let go of stuff, you attract, you create space for the new to come in. Okay, so number 3, believe he's out there. So not just intellectually know it, but you want to feel it. And ask yourself, if I don't fully know it, why not? Okay, that's the thing you want to ask yourself. So again, not an intellectual concept. You actually want to feel it to your core. So many people don't allow themselves to go there. Maybe they don't believe someone's out there for them. Maybe they have certain beliefs about relationships or men, like, oh, there are no ideal men out there, or you've got to compromise. Now again, compromise is a funny word because there's nothing wrong with it, but I think the key thing is the energy you do it from. So you don't want to go into a relationship where you're compromising from something where you feel you're going without, basically. Rather, it's something where you feel amazing about and you love this person, this relationship, and you'll do whatever it takes to make it work. That doesn't feel like a compromise, it's a very different energy. So that's the key thing. It's always about energy, not about the word or the deed, basically. So like I said, not just an intellectual concept, but you want to ask yourself, how do I feel about having the love of my life, or a fantastic, breathtaking, passionate, toe-curling, as you said, relationship in my life right now? And again, right now, how do you feel about that? Oftentimes when people think about it, they think of one day having it. So similar to the woman on the radio show, I made it very real. I brought it to the here and now, basically. So right now, if you think about having a man walk into your life, how do you feel? And I often do that with my clients. I'll say to them, whether it's money they want to have or a relationship, I'll say, if you have that right now, how do you feel, basically? And so as you think about him being in your environment, living with you, being together, being in a relationship, how does it feel? Notice what comes up for you. If it feels uncomfortable, ask yourself why not, or why does it feel uncomfortable, and explore that. Because think about it, if you can't feel it comfortably and enjoy it and think about it from the mind place and the feeling place, how are you going to physically attract it and keep it? So it's like what I call like the hot potato phenomenon. So oftentimes it's around money. So people want to attract more money, but on some level they feel, oh, if I have more money, people will ask me to lend them money, or someone will hurt me because I've got lots of money. So subconsciously they've they've associated negative connotations to money. So that's why they don't attract it. It's a hot potato, basically. When they have it, they find ways of letting it go. Same with relationships. So how can you totally feel alive and in love of having what you want right now and be excited about it and can't wait for it and want more and more of it. That's where you want to be at. If it feels uncomfortable, explore that in more detail, basically, because whether it's beliefs, whether it's past stuff, future stuff, whatever it might be, you want it to feel totally exciting that you can't wait to have it and you're just energized by it. And that's kind of gets you in the realm of inspired action. Then you'll feel inspired to take action, do things, and it'll start to come about from that place.
Yeah, I love this too, and I think it's so important because you think about it, anything that you really set out to do in your life, let's say it's an educational degree or a career or something that you want to create, you envision it, you see it in your mind first. And that, you said, and that gives you that ability to take inspired action. In the case of your love life, it might mean that you're putting yourself in situations where you can meet someone instead of staying home watching TV or whatever. It's like that belief system is incredibly powerful. And I believe it's like we have to be able to kind of see, imagine it in the mind and feel it in the body before we can manifest it in reality.
Yeah, totally agree. And the key thing I'll also add, tying it in with what we said early on about energy and feeling. So the clue is the feeling, basically. So if you're thinking about a relationship and it feels uncomfortable, okay, why is it making me feel uncomfortable? What are you putting in that picture to make it feel uncomfortable? Are you putting a past pattern of a relationship and thinking that's how relationships should be? Why should they be? You create your universe. So define it in a way that excites you, because the way you feel about it is what is the vibration that you're offering, and that's what you're going to attract. So make it absolutely amazing. You define it. If you haven't had the greatest relationship of your life yet, maybe because you've not put the energy there, because your beliefs have been in that place. So make it the greatest experience of your life. And it's down to you what you paint on your masterpiece of the canvas, basically. So, and that's down to your beliefs and what you're allowing yourself to think and feel. Mm-hmm. So number 4, clean up your beliefs about yourself, about men, about relationships. So what I mean by that is similar to what we've said a bit earlier. When you think of a relationship, when you think of men, instinctively, what are the thoughts that come to you? So what we've talked about today has been, so what we're really talking about is not just what you consciously believe and think, but what you unconsciously believe, and that's the key thing. So that's major, basically, because many people think, well, no, I don't think that, but that's what their conscious mind tells them. So unconsciously, how do you get to that? Well, one way is when you ask yourself about men or relationships, just start writing what comes up for you, okay? All your associations, all your memories, whatever comes up, just start writing. Don't think about it, just start writing. Again, when I'm working with people about money, same sort of thing. I'll say, okay, money on the page, just start writing everything that comes up for you about money. If they say things like, oh, money is the root of all evil, money is difficult, money is hard work, etc., etc., and I'll say, okay, now everything that you've written there is energy, basically. What is that manifesting for you? It's the same with men. When you think of men, whether it's in the present, in the past, whether it's conceptually about men, whether it's about commitment, whether it's about sex, whether it's about relationships, living together, whatever it might be, pick particular subjects. If you found that you've attracted the wrong men, so to speak, look at what might be within you to attract that type of a relationship. So for example, if you believe that you can't attract a great man for whatever reason, is that maybe why you're attracting the sort of men that you've attracted? So look within as to the beliefs you must have had, if you look at it as a pattern or a trend, to reflect that type of an experience. Again, nothing is wrong. Everything is sort of teaching us, and we're learning from it to grow and evolve. But look at kind of what's been the reflection of it. And also, the other side of it is, what do you want? So what do you need to believe to have that? What do you need to not believe? So sometimes they might be shedding older beliefs to allow in an openness to create something new and beautiful, sort of thing. So sometimes we might have to let go of things to allow something new and big and wonderful to flourish. So explore your beliefs about yourself, men, and relationships. And one other thing is, when your mind quietens, what do you think about? So oftentimes, when we have the quiet moments, what thoughts come to your mind organically, naturally? So is it like, oh, I'm never going to attract someone, or this is difficult? So explore what that's about. Because again, if that's your vibration, it's not the vibration of someone excited and loves where they are right now and doesn't need a relationship, but is excited and passionate about their life and excited for what's to come, and then letting it be open to what comes into their life. So just explore your beliefs, and also where your thoughts go in the quieter moments, because that can give you clues as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a very powerful one as well. So what's number 5?
Okay, number 5. So again, these all kind of interrelate a bit. So focus on how good it feels in terms of having what you want and can feel. Okay. So what I mean by that more consciously is connecting to the feeling, the emotion around it. So we've talked about that briefly earlier, and also when you work on your beliefs and some of the other things we've said earlier, that will help you feel better about it anyway, sort of thing. So for example, if you're someone that believes it's not easy for me to have what I want, and you clear up that belief, and now you believe like, hey, I can have anything I want. That's going to feel amazing, sort of thing. So the key thing I'm saying here with number 5 is notice how relationships have felt and ask yourself, how do I want to feel? What do I want to feel? And you can make a list of that. Oh, I want to feel chemistry. I want sparks to fly. I want great sex. I want intimacy. I want to be able to communicate with my partner. I want him to be my best friend. So make a list of what totally excites you. Notice how that feels. Keep your energy in that place. Look at maybe how you have felt in the past. Because again, what you feel is an indicator of your energy and your vibration and what you will tend to attract. So notice, because sometimes we kind of subconsciously create invisible ceilings in our minds of what we can attract. So if we only allow ourselves to feel so good, we limit ourselves to what we can attract. So sometimes people believe that, oh, this is all I can have, sort of thing. So that's where they limit themselves. So just look into what you have thought in the past and what you have felt, and ask yourself, how can I feel even better? How can I feel like life is an absolute blessing and heaven every day? What type of experiences do I want to have in my life as well as in my relationship? So be conscious of the emotions you want to feel and put yourself in that place. Again, what I said earlier, be in the knowingness of that place, not intellectually, not like, yes, that would be nice and conceptually be nice, because that's very dissociated. You actually want to experience this because you manifest from experience. That's the energy flowing through you. And so when it feels amazingly good within you, that's the energy flowing. That's attracting all sorts of synchronicities. So what you feel on the inside is what you experience on the outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's so true. I think it's so true. And I think part of this is like expanding, if you're feeling blocked, is expanding that capacity to receive more. Yeah. So one of the things I've noticed in working with so many women over the years is most women are very developed in terms of their abilities to give. A lot of women are givers. Yeah. And yet a lot of women don't have as expanded capacity to receive. More. And like you were saying earlier, sometimes a lot of this is on the subconscious level. Yeah. And so it's kind of like the hard drive that runs the computer. We don't see it, and yet it's running the whole show, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In relation to that, I mean, in terms of women being givers, so oftentimes there are two scenarios that can often play out. One is they might attract the wrong relationships where they're giving and giving and giving and then finding that it's not a balance. Or another scenario is when they're in for example, a marriage and they have children and they're used to very much giving, and then the children grow up and they fly away, sort of thing. And then the women sort of have to learn a new way of moving forward in their lives and actually thinking of themselves, which is a very new concept because they've been thinking about others for the last 15, 16, 20 years, sort of thing. So, and also they can explore, how do I feel? How do I feel about taking care of myself and doing what I want? So it might be guilt comes into it. They might feel guilty thinking about themselves. So just be conscious of that. Realize that as you allow yourself to experience the wonderness of life, the more you have to give as well. If you're out of your flow, if you're not in a good place energetically because you've just been giving and giving sort of thing, and you're not energetically in a good place, you don't have as much to offer. But when you're aligned to what you love, you have so much more to offer, sort of thing. So it's like the metaphor of if you have a cup and you fill it with tea or water. So the idea of abundance is when the cup is full, it then overspills onto everything else, basically. Same here. So the energy fills up within you and you overspill onto everyone else, and they benefit and they grow from it as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, number 6. So how do you think you need to think about yourself for the relationship that you want for it to be inevitable? So what I mean by that is for you to have what you want, for it to be absolutely undeniable, inevitable, natural, as in you can't even miss it, how do you need to be in terms of your thinking, feeling, beliefs, actions? So it's like, it might be that maybe it's about changing your thinking that, hey, what's coming to me is very natural. It's going to show up in my life. I don't need to work hard for it, in the sense that everything that I need to do, I'll be inspired to do. The right things will show up. I'll feel inclined to it, rather than someone who feels they're always chasing and things aren't working out for them, which is hard work. So just the phrasing of it, that things being difficult and I have to chase it, that's kind of out of balance. But instead, what if actually everything is working out for you? And now from that perspective, who do you need to transform into for it to be absolutely inevitable, for it to be absolutely aligned, natural? And you might say, oh, well, I need to practice loving myself more, enjoying my life more, spending time with my friends more, doing this, that. So how do you need to act, be, think, and feel for having what you want to be absolutely inevitable? Another thing might be about abundance and not scarcity. It might be believing that there's plenty of potential suitors out there for you, rather than there's not enough out there and I've got to work hard, or maybe I won't find someone, and fear of being alone and things like that, which is again pointing towards what you don't want. So instead, focus on abundance, that everything shows up for me in the right time, the right place. I just need to prepare myself to allow it and to receive it. Are you focusing on the presence of what you want, or the lack of it, or the absence of it, sort of thing? So I feel lonely. Why all my friends have what they want, why don't I have it? No, you've got your own path. Focus on yourself, focus on your own journey. So are you focusing on abundance, or are you focusing on scarcity? Are you focusing on presence, or are you focusing on lack? And so what's the energy of what you want? And if you had it right now, who would you be? How would you be? How would you act? And what would you not be doing, thinking, feeling? So start to live that more and more. So as we embody the manifestation of what we want, the manifestation shows up. And it's more about us stepping into that energetically, and then it shows up, the right place. Suddenly you're invited somewhere, and suddenly you meet a guy, and it all works out wonderfully, or something happens somewhere, or whatever else. I've worked with many people for many years, including many women attracting men. And I mean, one example story was a woman who said to me, in America, a very affluent place in terms of not just affluent in terms of prosperity, but in terms of men. And she said, there are no single men here. And when I was working with her, my view is that anything, whether it's money or men or women or whatever you're looking for, it's about us. It's not about what's out there. So in relation to her, I said to her, when you shift your mindset and get into the alignment of what you want, what will happen is, even if there weren't any men, even if there weren't single men in your town, a man will show up for you, because the universe can't ignore if you're aligned to it. If you're aligned to it, it's on, basically. So the universe will orchestrate that. So even if there are no men right now in your town, a man will come to that town. Or maybe you'll go somewhere and you'll meet somewhere, or you'll both go somewhere and meet, and the universe will orchestrate it. So it's about getting the alignment to it energetically, than looking around you and thinking nothing's out here. Because again, as you look at that, you're now, as you observe nothing's out there, you're now putting lack into your consciousness, and that's what you vibrate for more, basically. So look into energy, alignment, getting that feeling place, and then the right things will start to show up more and more in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a couple of things that I just want to put the explanation point behind here. And the first one is this idea of focusing on what you do want and what you don't want. That's so powerful, because I'm sure you've experienced this too, Hemal. When I speak with some of my clients, sometimes in the earliest stages, they'll say, I don't want this, I don't want more of that, I don't want this kind of guy again, I don't. And so then I work with them to get really clear about what it is they really do want, and to speak in that language, to think in that language. It's incredibly powerful. And then the other thing that you said that I just want to put the accent on is this idea of abundance versus scarcity. Because one of the things that I definitely know to be true is, if we have a belief that there are no good men in our city, state, country, etc., because I've heard this from women all around the world,
Yep.
in all different cities, states, countries. And of course, there are women that are meeting men in these cities, states, and countries.
Yeah.
So we know that's not factually true. But when that is a perception, when that is a belief, then what happens is we have confirmation bias. We begin to gather evidence to support that original belief, which may have been faulty to begin with, but then that makes that belief stronger and stronger and stronger. And I can tell you for sure, there are some women listening here today, and I felt it at times as a single woman, that really do feel like, I just can't see anybody. I can't see how, when, or where I'm ever going to meet a guy in my city, state, town, whatever. Well, I used to joke around and say I was going to write a book called Dating for Decades, chronicling my decades of being a single woman. And at one point, I felt like I dated every single man in my city. Of course, I hadn't. But it sort of felt that way. And I would look around and I would think, I just can't see how this could happen for me. So it wasn't until that really began to shift and I began to understand some of my inner blocks, some of which you've touched upon and hit upon today, and began to shift some of my beliefs, that a whole new possibility opened for me. And I met this amazing, wonderful husband who, incidentally, Hemal, goes right along with what you're saying, moved to the state. He had been living out of state, and all of a sudden here was this amazing, wonderful man in my life.
Yeah. When the energy is right, it just takes care of itself. Another story it reminds me of, actually, before I go into the story, let me just talk about beliefs. So you said about confirmation bias, and let me also add, oftentimes when we say to people, what are your beliefs? Okay, they'll probably write a few things, and usually it's what they consciously believe. So here's a clue as to get to your more hidden beliefs, okay, which aren't always obvious. The thing to ask yourself is, what am I assuming? Okay, because sometimes, see, beliefs are very sneaky, because we operate from the belief, so we don't actually question them. That's the thing. We operate, so they're so sneaky that we actually operate, we live from them, we act from them, but we don't question them because we're too busy living them out. So the thing to ask yourself is, what am I assuming? And what am I not assuming? So what am I assuming about men and relationships? What am I assuming about my life and men and relationships? What am I assuming about my future? And what am I not assuming? And the clue is, also how are you acting? How are you feeling? So, if you're feeling down about it, that's telling you a clue of what you're assuming. Because again, what you feel is usually from the assumptions that you tend to make in your life, which are your beliefs. So what am I? So that's a way to get to your hidden, sneaky, invisible beliefs, which often we aren't really aware of. Because if we say, what are your beliefs? People will tend to write down what they're consciously aware of, but the unconscious ones will sneak by. So what am I assuming? What's my life pattern? How am I acting? What do my actions show in terms of what my assumptions are? And also, what are not my assumptions? If I know, if I'm assuming that I'm going to meet someone who's absolutely going to be perfect for me and I'm going to be happily ever after, how would I be feeling now? How would I be living my life? Most likely, very differently. If you're assuming that, than if you're not assuming that. You might be energetically excited. It's like Christmas is coming and you know something amazing is going to happen. If you're assuming that, that's the energy you'll be in. So that's a clue as well. If you know the good stuff's happening, you're going to feel very differently.
I love that you gave us those questions to ask, the assuming, to help us pick up on some of those beliefs that might be flying a little under the radar. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. Because again, like I said, if we ask beliefs, usually we write down what we consciously think. We sort of write down the stories we tell ourselves and our friends, but we're not really conscious of the deeper stuff. So I found over the years, in my experiences, what am I assuming and what am I not assuming? And again, when I say what am I not assuming, so if I want X in my life sort of thing, what am I not assuming about it? So if a woman's trying to have a great relationship or attract a great relationship, what is she not assuming? Is she not assuming it's easy? Is she not assuming it's going to happen effortlessly in her life, that it's going to be amazing, better than what she's had before, etc., etc.? So sometimes it can tell you the beliefs that you're not taking on board either, the ones that can empower you further. So what useful beliefs am I not assuming at this time? And what would be useful to assume? That's something that you can ask yourself. So I mentioned I'd also share a story. I loved your story, Michelle, about you and your husband. So I worked with someone several years ago. I did a seminar in Australia several years ago, and someone raised their hand and said, Hemal, I've been trying to attract the right guy in my life for all these years. It's never happened. She was about 49, 50, and she'd been married. She had a daughter, and she said that she'd never had a relationship last more than a year. And so she mentioned some things that were blocks, and I worked with her in terms of shifting her conflicts and her fears and some blocks around it. And so one of the conflicts she had was that she kept attracting men that didn't like traveling, and she loved traveling. And in fact, what she was attracting is not just men that didn't like traveling, but also that they would try and put her off it because they didn't want her to travel. And so I worked with her for about 20 minutes. I was at the front of the audience, and she was seated, and I worked with her for about 20 minutes approximately. During the break, she came up to me and she said, things feel a bit different now. I'm starting to see things differently. So what I did essentially is she had a conflict, traveling and attractive men. They were kind of dichotomous. She couldn't have one. She could have one or the other, but not both. So I helped her integrate that as a conflict, basically. And then afterwards, she said, I'm starting to now think of male friends who do like traveling, and I couldn't think of that before, she said. I said, okay, your mind is rewiring, it's reprocessing. So I left her with that. 3 weeks later, we have a private group where I do weekly webinars. She posted on the group saying, I've met a man, and we're getting along really, really well, and so on and so on. And that went by, weeks went by, months went by. And about 9 months later, I think they'd moved in together, and they were traveling together, and then they were investing in real estate together. And so now, this is now, I think, 6-7 years on, both happily together, real estate, investing in real estate together, traveling together. They've got their parents to dogs together, and it's the longest. So her previously for her, a relationship had not lasted more than a year. This is now about 7 years running now. It's the longest relationship he's ever had as well. And she said to me, Hemal, she goes, first of all, Hemal, I owe you my heart for that. And she said, and you know what? He was right around the corner. I was looking for men everywhere, and he was right around the corner, as in probably in her town or city or wherever it was, basically. And she said he was right around the corner. He was right here all the time, basically. And that's the thing. If we're not aligned to it, it'll be right next to us, and we'll overlook it. It's like when you're having dinner and you ask for the salt cellar, and it's right there in front of you, but because your filters are aligned a certain way, you overlook it. Same with everything, whether it's men, money, careers, whatever it might be. So it's aligning how you see things and how you perceive things to recognize what's already around you. And my view and my belief is that everything that we want energetically, spiritually, is already here. It's just aligning to it, and it'll start to reveal itself to you, and then things go from there. Okay. Number 7. So this is really a quick one, which is ignore what other people say about what's possible for you. Okay, make it about your energy, because otherwise what happens is you start to seek other people's opinions, and they dilute what you think is possible for you. The clue is, does it excite you, or does it limit you, or does it expand you, or does it contract, basically? So if people say, oh well, I'm not sure you can have what you want, or it's not easy, or relationships are tough, and ask yourself, does that excite me, or does it not, basically? So really, you create your own reality. Define your beliefs about the reality that you want to have, because you've got your own connection to whatever you believe, whether it's universe, source, God, whatever you want to call it, higher self. You've got your own relationship. So assume that you totally create it 100%. So be conscious of the other beliefs or beliefs of other people around you, and take on board only what inspires you, and ask yourself, what do I want to believe? What do I want to assume? And what do I not want to assume? What excites me? What brings me alive? And so when you feel more and more alive, that's the clue of energy flowing through you more and more. That's the clue. When you feel less alive, when you feel constricted, when you're contracting, when there's fear, conflicts, that's a clue you're going in the other direction. So you want to feel more and more alive, and then again, that takes you more in the moment, and then things happen and orchestrate from that place. So really, the clue is, what excites me, what brings me alive, what makes me feel like heaven on earth, basically. What am I here for? And then as you step into that energy, you attract something that's a powerful match to that, and you attract great things.
Yeah, I think this is a really good one that we maybe don't think about that often, of receiving kind of this messaging from other people. I can remember having a conversation back when I was single with a kind of, friend who was kind of discouraged about her love life too. And I was sharing a little bit about what I wanted. And she said, oh, it'll never happen, Michelle. She just came right out and said that to me. And it felt like a kick in the stomach, because I'm thinking, why would this friend who I believe thinks so highly of me believe this could never happen for me? But it wasn't about me. It was about what was going on in her mind and her limiting beliefs. And she was projecting that in language that she said to me. But at the time, it was just kind of like, I thought, wow, that's kind of shocking. I've shared this hope dream that I have. And she just basically said, it'll never happen, Michelle.
Yeah. And the thing is, people are so convinced of what they believe. And the thing is, realize this, just as you attract what you believe, so do they. So she might have had loads of experiences where that has been the case. That's why so like you said, confirmation bias, you tend to attract what you believe. So maybe for her, that was the case. So realize that's the same with all of us, basically, that people will attract what they believe. And also, maybe on some level, if someone was doubting it, they might attract people that are doubting, sort of thing. And so that's okay. Just be conscious of it and say, thank you, thank you for universe for bringing this in. But what excites me? What brings me alive? What do I want to assume? What makes me happy? So notice what we said earlier. How does it feel? How amazing can you make it feel? So that's the clue. If you're feeling something doesn't feel so good, it's limiting me. Okay, well, let me fantasize just for the sake of it. I'm not trying to. And this is the other thing. Sometimes people get very attached to what they're trying to manifest. Like, it's got to happen. I've got to bring this guy into my life. Otherwise, I won't be happy, or I'm not living my life as fully as I can. So don't be attached to it. Live your life fully anyway, regardless of who's in your life, sort of thing. And so really, what you want to do is you want to manifest from a place of excitement rather than need and forcing. So oftentimes people will try and force their manifestations. I really need it. I really need to make this happen. So this is the way to do it. Get into the energy of it and let it happen of its own accord. Because when you force it, on some level, there's an element of need. So sometimes it might be subconsciously the person says, oh, I don't feel valuable, and a man will make me feel valuable. Or my life isn't as happy as it can be, but a soulmate or a man will make me live my life fully. No, live your life fully now, regardless of a man. Believe in yourself fully, regardless of a man. Then you'll attract a man that will reflect that back to you, rather than a man who will reflect lack back to you. Because if on some level you believe lack in yourself, you'll probably attract someone, whether it's a man or work colleagues or friends or whatever, that will reflect that back. So step into the energy of what you want and live from that place, and then you attract a reflection and expression of that. That's the way it works, basically. So be in that place of, my life is amazing, and a bonus would be to have a man to share it with. Not that I need a man to make it any better, but because my life is amazing regardless. So that's how attachment ties into relationships and manifesting, that you don't need something. Same with money or anything else, because when you need it, as you cling on to it, you're kind of forcing it away. So actually it's like, how amazing is my life regardless of the manifestation I want? And as I focus on that, I'm making myself even more attractive to the thing that I want from that energy, basically.
Mm-hmm. So as part of this, if I'm hearing you right, part of this is being in that place of manifesting without really being attached to knowing the details, so to speak, the how, the when, or the where, to some extent.
But that's nicely, because usually people say, attachment comes from trying to force the how, when, where, etc. This is what I would say. If you're in a good vibe, okay, so this thing, you can think of the how, when, where, what, etc., etc. If it's a fun energy. So what I mean is, you can fantasize how your man will come into your life, but let go of it. Don't be attached to it. You can fantasize which man or what he'll look like and when, because it feels good, just because it raises your vibe. That's it. But don't be attached to it. So if you're not attached to it, it doesn't matter if it doesn't happen exactly that way, because you're not attached to it, sort of thing. But you're using that visualization or that focusing to raise your vibe. So actually, I would say specifics help you manifest what you want, because like the woman I mentioned on the radio show, she was very general about her visualizations. There wasn't much power behind it. But if we got really specific and said, oh, this man with this sort of hair, these eyes, sort of thing, with broad shoulders, you're in his arms, what's it like having a relationship with him, and walking hand in hand on the beach together, and so on and so on. And so as you get into specifics, it becomes much more powerful. So specifics actually add the power, but don't get attached to them. That's where people get into trouble, because they get specific, and then what will happen is they'll attract a man, and then they get very attached to it. So the thing is not to be attached to it, not to need it, sort of thing. And usually, again, attachment comes because on some level we don't feel complete, whether it's that we need something on the outside to fulfill it, that we don't feel valuable or as happy or whatever it might be. So that's why on the inside it's like being as happy as you can be, sort of thing. And then getting into the specifics from that energy and enjoying the specifics because they feel fun, and then letting it go however it plays out, sort of thing. So specifics are good, but don't be attached to them, basically.
Mm-hmm. Don't need to have it happen in this specific way or time frame or whatever.
Because
that needy energy is not attractive. It doesn't.
No, and also as you vibrate that, it gets uncomfortable. Think about if you're a woman and you've been on a date with a guy that needs you. How did you feel? So notice how that it feels uncomfortable, sort of thing, because the energy they're vibrating is resistance, it's lack, it's fear, and so on and so on. And it feels uncomfortable. So don't be in that place. So be in the place of or moving your mindset that your life is complete, and if not, then you're doing the things that you need to be for it to feel complete, regardless of a man or a relationship or whatever else. Then you have so much more to offer that relationship, and it grows and flourishes far more quickly. Whereas if there's the element of need, that can feel tense. You might find two people attract each other and they need each other, and they could get codependent and so on and so on. But I would focus on the energy of completeness rather than incompleteness, and you attract things that will reflect that incompleteness as well. So if you feel like I'm incomplete and I need a man to complete me, you'll probably attract someone on some level who will reflect back the incompleteness of the thing. So move towards completion and evolving together and growing together and good, fantastic sort of expression together as you grow as a couple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, this has been really a fun conversation, Hemal. I really appreciate all you've shared, and I think there's some really powerful ideas and some really powerful concepts, and we would invite you to experiment with them. Because they can only have a positive impact on your life if you experiment with them and use them, right?
Action, yeah. Apply them, yes.
Right, apply them. And as much as Hemal and I like speaking with each other, it's great to be able to share this with this broader audience. So we're honored to have your presence here. So Hemal, thank you once again.
I love all that we share. Again, thank you for everyone that's been watching us. It's been fantastic being here with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And ladies, Hemal and I are sending you love and blessings. Bye-bye for now.